when I wrote my book on COVID, well over a year ago, there were certain parts of the book that some of my colleagues thought was kind of iffy, and one of them was toward the end of the conclusion. I speculated at that time that that COVID could end up basically being, we're not going to vanquish it, and it'll end up being kind of a endemic infection similar to the other four coronaviruses that are common. So about a third or so of cases of the common cold that happen every year, and billions of people get the common cold every year, that about a third of those are caused by a type of coronavirus. What's really interesting, and now that I've updated the book, I don't know, less than a year ago, there was a biologist, I think is at Yale, who did really interesting work looking at the so-called Russian flu pandemic, which was about 130 years ago, so about 30 years before the Spanish the Spanish flu epidemic that we all talk about.
Right.
So this Russian flu pandemic, we don't really know, but it may have killed as many as 1 million people. It was always assumed to be a type of flu, and now there's very compelling evidence that it was caused by one of those four coronaviruses. So that same coronavirus that killed a huge number of people 130 years ago now circulates every year, infects hundreds of millions of people, particularly children, and probably kills a few, but so few that we can't even count how few, but it's potentially fatal, but extremely rarely fatal. I was predicting that eventually the coronavirus 2 virus would become like that. But I didn't, but the big question is when? Will it take a year or two,
right, yes.
10 years? But that seems to be its trajectory, that it would become more and more contagious over time and very possibly less fatal. And the Delta variant in particular is certainly much more contagious, and there's even some evidence that it may be less fatal, although statistically it's still killing a lot of people because it's so contagious.